to Horses, Hope, and Hustle, the podcast where faith leads, grit drives, and the Western way of life runs deep. I'm your host, Crystal Show, wife, horsewoman, entrepreneur, and believer that God doesn't waste the hard stuff. Around here, we talk real stories, big dreams, and the kind of hustle that's rooted in hope. So pull your hat down, pour that coffee, and let's ride. Today's guest is confidence coach Brandi Turnipseed. Who knows grit, mindset, and belief can change everything. We're talking about showing up when doubt shows up first, riding with purpose, and building the kind of confidence that carries you far beyond the arena. Let's dive in. All right. Today, guys, I'm here with Brandi. Brandi, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, thanks, Crystal, for the invite. And just a little bit about our background, too. Like, we met, 5 years ago, randomly.
Yeah, very random.
Very randomly, when friends were being shuttled to and from the airport. But yeah, my background, I actually am spending the winter here in Wickenburg this year. And the reason for that is I have been in the horse industry my whole life, but I've never really focused on being able to offer my services to a bigger population until the last couple of years. And so coming to Wickenburg, it really supported my lifestyle of growing up in the horses. But I started competing when I was 2 years old, more in the horse show, equestrian disciplines, and won a world championship when I was 8 years old, which was incredible. Like, it was just this amazing experience. But I also, at that time of my life, won the world championship in equitation over fences, so a 100 jumper type class, but lost the all around by 10 points. So as an 8-year-old child, it was so devastating to me.
Best and worst day of my life.
That's the worst day of my life, for sure. I cried all the way home from Oklahoma City. And I'll never forget that. But it was a defining moment in my life. And now looking back at my age now is I have always been on this search of, like, how do I help women like us, women that are entrepreneurs, women that are in the equestrian and cowgirls, just really supporting women in whatever they achieve and want to achieve. And it really comes down to confidence. And so that's where my focus has been. So coming to Wickenburg this winter really was a stretch for me in my confidence because it's the unknown. It's pushing yourself to be able to do the things that are unfamiliar to you. So I am currently living the journey and sharing the journey and helping other women be on their journey of confidence as well.
I love that. I feel like it just makes you that much more relatable. Like, it's raw, it's real. I'm not like preaching from my throne.
Right.
I am in it with you.
That is so true. And I think that is one of the things that we have to really realize is we're all in the same game of life together. And one of the things that I really have identified over the last few years, and I'll back up and say 5 years ago, I was in a really high level corporate job. And that is something that I was always chasing. I was always chasing an end result. And I always felt like I had confidence because I was achieving those things. But at that point, I went into this entrepreneurship journey and started some companies and did some things. And what I realized was when our confidence gets shaken, especially as women, we actually isolate ourselves. And that is something that we don't want to do. We have to have a network of people, and we struggle sometimes to find that. And you would think that that's a crazy thing to struggle with the new age of social media, but it actually makes it worse because we're able to isolate ourselves and watch somebody else's journey without participating in our own. So that's one of the things that I am just super, super passionate about to bring to women and create a community that we can all support each other.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. We were kind of talking about this when we were catching up when you first got here, is this journey is not easy. Entrepreneurship is not easy. Going out on a limb, like coming down to Wickenburg, and everybody's like, oh, this is the dream. And it is, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of this dream.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot to that, and being upfront and real about this is everything, but that doesn't mean that's not worth chasing.
Right. Yeah. And I think it is a definite dream for a lot of people. And whether it's Wickenburg, Texas, whether it's a corporate job, whether it's being a mom and raising a family, like we all have our paths and our passions, and they're always evolving. And so it's really easy for us to identify and look at somebody else and say, that's the life that I want. But we need to sit down and really be honest with ourselves at this moment in time and say, what is the life that I want to build? Like, what does this look like? And if you know that, say, going out on a limb and moving from whatever your permanent home is, say, to a place like Wickenburg, even for the winter, there's so many questions of like, how do I do this financially? How do I get my horses moved there? What do I do when I get there? And it's scary. Like, it is really scary. And I'll just share a story. Like, I thought it was going to be easy for me this year. Like, I really did. I'm really excited.
It's in the bag.
It is. Yeah. And there's so many decisions to have happen, but things started to fall into place because I had this vision. But it wasn't without those trials too. Like, I was able to find a place, a location, to actually reside for the winter. I was able to find an RV, have it shipped here. Like, all of these things happened. I found a really nice young couple to rent my house. Like, all of these little pieces were falling together. But the real story is when I came into Wickenburg and I hadn't seen my RV, right? And so I got here and I thought it was all set up. I had it transported here. It was not. And I had no electricity. I had no sewer hose. I had no water. Gosh. And it's late at night. And so, like, I'm almost in tears and I'm like, oh, I made the mistake. I just made this huge, huge mistake. And I just slept on it. And I'm like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. I'm here safe. And then the next day you just go to work. And I think that's the one thing that I would encourage any person and any woman that wants to do this is just make the plan, and not everything's going to work out, but know that you're going to put the work in when you get here, whether or not that means that you have to pick up side jobs, whether it means that it's not the ideal location for you. And in my case, I was incredibly just blessed by the people that own the property that I'm at, because they're so encouraging. And it was just this message of like, you're not going to grow if you stay stuck in the same place. And so that was just my sign, honestly, that I'm in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. And kind of like preparation of like, hey, it's not all going to go to plan, but we got tomorrow.
Right. Right. And that's a big, big deal when we talk about like building confidence too, whether it be in your personal life, in and out of the arena, whatever it might be, is your best made plans aren't always going to go as planned. And if we put our self-worth in what that end result and that outcome is, we're constantly going to be chasing a never-ending battle. It's the process. And it is the process of growth that is what keeps you going day in and day out.
Yeah. I think what is cool to look back on and reflect on too is the person that you become through it.
Yes.
Because I know I'm still so hard on myself and my business. Like, I'm like, I should be here. And then I look back and I'm like, holy cow, I'm way ahead of where I ever could have imagined it to go. And I have changed as a person throughout that immensely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the time of year too. We're getting ready to go into the new year, and, you know, we're so focused on like setting our goals for the next year, and not to minimize that, because it's super important to get really clear on your goals. But what we often do forget is like looking back and saying, how far did we come? And did we achieve those goals that we set out to? And if we didn't, why didn't we? Maybe it wasn't the right goal at the right time. Maybe it was that we're overloaded or something happened that was beyond our control. And so if we don't take the time to really reflect And that is a big pillar of building your confidence, is that time, rest and recovery and reflection. We're just going to be in that never ending cycle of unsatisfaction. Really.
Yeah. I love that. That is a very good point too. I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in constantly looking ahead.
Yes.
That we don't stop and reflect.
Right. Yeah.
Very guilty. Thank you for calling me out.
No, I'm exactly that person. And I will tell you why I'm that person too. Because one of the things that we struggle with the most is just people in general. There's people that are really good at this, but it's the daily discipline habits. And when you have those discipline habits like that, and you have big goals, sometimes you don't see what's actually happening and what you're achieving, because you're just on this pattern. You've built exactly what you need to have success. And you have the discipline to do it, and it happens. And we start taking that for granted, and we just think this is our normal everyday life. So then when something disrupts that, it does become, a challenge for us. Like we really don't know how to handle that, I guess, at certain times. So yeah, definitely not calling you out. I think we are all in that. And I mean, I know you, like, you're disciplined enough, like you were sharing this actually when we were talking earlier, was, you took on some things in this last year that maybe that you weren't planning to take on, or that might have been a bigger project than you thought that was going to. And that does disrupt that flow, and that does disrupt. But when you have that discipline in place, then it just continues to flow. So, and then you figure out what fits and what doesn't. Maybe you made space for something that was more important than what you actually had planned to do too.
Yeah, very true. The podcast for me.
And you made yourself do it. It was something that you wanted to do for so long, and you made yourself do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I heard it. I think actually Brian pointed it out on Facebook, or I don't even know, but it said done is better than perfect.
Yes.
And I am like, in the kitchen, we're doing this. I have cords and everything else behind the camera, but we're doing it.
Yes. Yes. Then that is one of my favorite, just kind of lines of thought too. I think Ed Milet said this too, like, perfectionism is the ultimate lazy. And that like really slapped me in the face one day, because I am that type of person that I want it to be perfect. And as you're building a business, or you're doing something new, say it's a horse training business, or getting into a new discipline, or whatever it might be, a new career, we want everything to be perfect. And I think about the things like you and I are doing, and we're building brands. Like, we are the brand. And we get so hung up on it being perfect that we just don't move and we don't do it. And it's really a fear-based type scenario. And yeah, movement is better.
Yes.
And movement is always better. And we find what we're going to do is not as scary as we thought.
Yes.
And how else are we going to get better if we don't just practice it and do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, with like social media and everything, just being human and showing up as human goes such a long way in your brand too.
Yes.
Of like being like, I'm not trying to paint myself perfect. I'm just showing that I'm showing up.
Right.
I think that goes a long ways in even in helping yourself, encouraging yourself to go forward. Because what I have found is how many people will support you still. Like, they're like, oh yeah, she's just doing it. She didn't see whatever that didn't match, or whatever, like the words she messed up on. Like, they don't realize that. They just think it's awesome that you're showing up.
It's so true. And you don't even know who you're inspiring to. I mean, I think about, getting the opportunity to randomly meet you, say 5 or 6 years ago, and you're just getting started. And like, I was inspired. I was just getting started in my business, completely different line of business in a manufacturing health supplement area. And I remember watching you, and I'm like, man, this girl's got it going on. And then you were very vulnerable. Like, you would put out, content and be like, hey, I need help with X, Y, and Z. And being able to reach out to you and be like, hey, I kind of know a little bit about this because I have this business coach, but I don't really know anything about it. But it was just that back and forth of like, yeah, we're in it together. Like, we're all in this same thing together. And I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges too, is even when we're talking about competing with our horses, we get so in this line of competition that we're afraid to give our secrets up, or we're afraid to be friends with somebody, or, and there's no real reason. The collaboration is really the key. And, you don't want to be on this journey alone. And just like you said, like having a podcast and it not being exactly perfect, like how you envisioned it today.
Yeah.
It's going to get there a month from now, a year from now.
Yeah.
It wouldn't get there if you didn't start it.
Nope. That is very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I know when I started the podcast too, I had to be, like you said, very real with myself. The person I was that started my podcast was so different from the person who started my horse sales company, because with the horse sales company, I was so set. Like I have to show up perfect to be taken serious. And with the podcast, I'm very much just like, this is what is going on. This is how I've done it. This is how, and I've gotten to meet the neatest people just like us, complete random. And we have stayed in touch ever since then. And just getting to share those stories and just knowing like, I'm just going to show up and it's going to do what it's going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, showing up as two different people really isn't a bad thing. Knowing who your audience is. And my guess is you probably had this thought when you were in the horse sales company of, I have to be perceived a certain way, or I have to have a certain message because my clientele is this type of person, or I'm trying to attract this high-end clientele. And those are all important things. That doesn't mean that you're not authentic. That means that you're stepping into the role that you need to be for that situation. And you think about, even if we were to just talk about, a normal job career, we all have to step into that. When we step into the arena, we have to step into that particular person that we are. And it might be a different person than we are at home at night, and it's not that we're different at the core. It's just we have to activate different things to actually be successful at whatever that is that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I love that. That is very true. Very, very true. I think that's kind of the confidence thing too, is if you can act like the role you're trying to step into, you talk to yourself, you treat yourself like you're already that, it's just going to help you roll into it.
Very much so. And it's hard to figure out what those things are. When we really talk about, and in my line of work, mental toughness, mental performance, mindset, those are all like really big buzzwords. And there's lots and lots of research behind them. So there are really good tips and tools that you can use to really rewire your nervous system and to be able to really be that high performer. But what we don't realize is, we do have to be able to shut things off and on depending on what we are and what the scenario is, and allowing ourselves that flexibility to do that. And I'll say that I am 100% guilty of this when it comes to like a professional life of, you were talking about, you want things perfect.
Yeah.
Like I am that same way. And I think, everything's got to be perfect. And I find myself like so rigid. So one of the things that I have been really trying to work on is, okay, I'm not necessarily confident if things aren't in order. And in order to my perspective, not somebody else's perspective. And so allowing myself to think about like, how do I get out of that? How do I explore different things? Is that more an artistic side? Is it more a relaxed side and having fun? And all of those areas build your confidence, but you have to be able to recognize that and admit to yourself that, okay, I might lack in this area, or this is something I really don't like about myself. How do I change that? And then start exploring those types of things. So, and that's really uncomfortable. That's even the move out of your hometown that you don't know anybody. That will really make you step up or isolate. One of the two. You don't have an option.
Yeah. Yes. Holy cow. I never really thought of it that way, but it's very true. What made you want to get into the confidence coaching?
It's it's like anything, probably just like when you started your business too. Like I've started a couple of businesses, and my career has really been, I would say, in executive leadership, like for a $1 billion company. Like I've had some really, really great experiences from a career standpoint, which meant I had really great mentors. So throughout that time, like you learn from everybody that you're around. And what I realized was, as I was starting my businesses and this was uncomfortable, there were areas that I felt like I lacked confidence. Now, I knew I was smart. I knew I had the work ethic. I knew the product that I was making was a game-changing product. I knew all these things, but things start kind of knocking you down. And so I struggled a little bit with confidence in certain areas myself, and really started to explore that. But what I realized was one of my last roles for this large company was I had 17 different departments that I was managing, and several people in each department. But as I looked back at when I started to hire those individuals, I had to hire people that I believed were talented, and they may not have had the experience that we needed. And the reason for that was, this particular factory was just being built. That talent was not available in my local community. Gosh, I didn't even have that talent myself, but what I did have was I knew I could figure it out. So I hired people that were the same, that I knew that they had some talent, they could figure it out. And when I start looking back on those experiences in my career, and then actually marrying them up with my experience in the horse industry, I realized, like, I've been coaching people all my life. Like, I think we all have been coaching people. Like, you're always building people up, that might be where you were at 10 years ago. And so I have a lot of like youth clients that I give riding lessons to, and those are very tactical things, but you can always like interject, obviously, some mindset and some performance things. But what it really was, to tell you the truth, is 5 years ago, I joined an accountability group and with this business coach. And that accountability group, every single morning, I have to state my why. And for 4 of the last 5 years, I have stated my why. And every day I fight it because my why did not match up with what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And so my why is to help women find their confidence, change their life, and leave their mark. And I truly believe that as women, we are all on that same journey. And just as people, we are all on that same journey. And so as I reflected back of helping people and developing people through my career, I realized that this is exactly what I've been doing. And I had been studying mindset, and I had hired mindset coaches myself and high performance coaches. And it was just something that just became natural. And what I really truly feel is I felt like there's a missing link, and we can all go find a coach. And we all need coaches. I won't minimize that, because I do have quite a few clients that are one-on-one clients, but we don't have a community often. And it was really, really my goal is to build a community that women can build confidence together instead of us doing it alone.
Oh, that's very empowering.
Yeah. But it was a lot of work of finding the why. Like you were talking earlier, people are like, what if I want to move out of my home and I want to go winter in Arizona, or I want to go to Texas, or I want to go do this big thing? How do I do it? How do I make money? Or how do I accomplish this? And my number one advice would be to spend the time and really just dive into, why do you want to do that? And what is your personal why? Like, what impact do you want to make on this world, and build your life around that?
Yeah, that is incredible tip. So I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh. I need to take notes.
Yeah. And just like we were talking about activating different parts of you for different situations, it's the same with your why. Like when you start digging into that, and a good starting point to that is, a lot of people have probably already heard it, but Simon Sinek has a TED Talk on it. And then he also wrote a book called Start With Why. And it kind of breaks down like how you start developing that. But it's going to change over time, because you're going to get into something and you're think, this is it. This is my why. This is my mission in life. And then you kind of go down that road and you're like, it's not exactly that. You know, there's probably a little flavor of it in there still, but it just evolves and evolves. And then when you start seeing your impact and the things that you're doing, that, you know, your day to day of how that really is fulfilling that why, then it just continues to grow.
Yeah. That is awesome. There's like so much to think about here. I feel like I'm sitting in a coaching session. I'm like, this is awesome. I love it. So when people come to you for coaching, what do you kind of get started on? What could they kind of expect if they were to come to you for coaching?
Yeah.
Hang tight. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to us by Big Sky Horse Sales. From Montana to Arizona, Big Sky is your trusted online auction platform for quality rope, performance, ranch, barrel, and trail horses. Check out our Wickenburg online sales series December through March. Shop current consignments and stay tuned for the 2026 sale lineup. Or contact us today to book your custom event at bigskyhorsesales.com. Big Sky Horse Sales, built on trust, backed by quality. If you're loving this episode, check out some of our past episodes, including episode 2, Building More Than a Horse Sale with Charlotte Volt, or episode 5, You'll Never Ride Again to NRCHA World's Greatest Non-Pro with Stephanie Wagley, or episode 14, Queen of Hustle with Whitley Sharp. What could they kind of expect if they were to come to you for coaching?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few avenues that a person can choose depending on where they're at in their journey to it and how much one-on-one that they actually want. But for starters, follow me on Facebook. It's just Brandi Turnipseed, a confidence coach. And then I also have a Facebook group called the Cowgirl Collective, Cowgirl Confidence Collective. And so that is the community. So as I'm building that community with the women in there, it's just that piece where you can be supported. And those things are free. That's just tips and content and things. And then every month I run a 5-day challenge. And what we go over there is just your real basic 5 pillars, core pillars of the confidence framework. And those are your self-belief, your focus, your rest, your recovery, and your emotional control. And those are really kind of the pillars. And so that 5-day challenge happens once a month. And then I also, once you've completed that, or even you don't have to complete that at first, I do have a 90-day boot camp that I run, and I'm just finishing one of those up. I'll start another one in February. And that boot camp really digs into those 5 pillars of confidence at a real deep level. And usually those are fairly small groups of women. And that, again, builds a community that you're all supporting one another. And then I do have a limited amount of openings for one-on-one coaching as well. So I have quite a few people that I do coach that are, most of them are women that are in the equine industry. But I do have a couple of business women as well, because really when you talk about confidence, it spans everything in our life. And even my cowgirls that I coach, you know, we get into things of like, how do you balance your life and your horses? How do you make those big changes in life? And then that alignment, like, am I aligned with how I want to live my life? Am I aligned with my why? Those are the things. And then what I'm really excited about is, if you are in the Wickenburg area this winter, I am going to start collaborating with businesses and individuals and hosting at least twice a month, but I would like to try to host weekly, just a gathering that women can come together. We can talk about a particular confidence topic and just have an opportunity to be able to socialize and connect with each other and collaborate. Because just as you and I, you know, randomly met 5 years ago. And that's that really, I guess, could be an inspiration for this. So like, there's so many people like us that, we need each other, and, it was just random. And so if we can create a container where women can meet other women that are on these same journeys, and some of us may be ahead of others and some of us may be behind, and it doesn't really matter, because we can all support one another.
Yeah. I think community is absolutely huge, especially, we've been talking more along the lines of like entrepreneurship. And I know for me, when I first started, I didn't know a lot of other people doing what I was doing. I had some great support, but then after I got going and it got hard, I was like, oh my gosh, then I felt so alone.
Yes.
And it was like, I don't think I can keep doing this. Yes. And along the way, I have been able to meet some incredible people. I have some like my 911ers, that are one of my best peer friend, whatever, I don't know. She's fantastic in the exact same industry. She also owns a horse sale platform, and just having that connection to be like on hard days, hey, this is where I'm struggling. Right. And it's never competition. It's just like, okay, I get that. I've been there. I understand your struggle. This is maybe something, and it's something so simple that can be sent over a text, but having that community is huge to keep going forward.
It is real huge, because we, especially as women, we think that we need to be strong and tough all the time. And there is some resiliency built in that, but without some recovery time and without that connection to a community, you just face burnout, and you get lost, and you start questioning, am I on the right path? And so what I really liked that you said is, you found somebody that is in your same industry, and you guys are collaborating and helping one another. And that's something that I really just hope and pray for in our horse industry. I think it's a really phenomenal industry. And I've met so many wonderful people, even in the 3 weeks that I've been here in Wickenburg. Like, the people I've met already are just incredible. But I also think that we get into this space of, we are just too competitive, and we don't want to, we kind of have our guard up, and we're not going to share everything, when in reality, nobody can be you. Nobody can be me. And, we have our own unique approaches, and you're probably doing something drastically different than maybe this person that you're collaborating with. And just having somebody that you can actually talk to and get it off your chest is key. Like, yes. Because if you're holding it to yourself and then you're trying to solve the problem yourself, 9 times out of 10, we're just not going to do it. And then we're going to face that burnout. And, and what a shame it would be to like be this far down the road, have built something and quit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, no two people are the same. My peer also has a sale industry. It's insane what we've been able to build, and we went completely different directions to do that. And that's what's neat about our friendship, is usually we have a different perspective of a problem, because they're like, oh, this is how I would have solved it. And it's like, oh, wow, I was not even considering that. I never would have thought of that. Like, thank you. Yeah. And I think that goes along with the competitiveness, even if you're competing against each other. Yeah. Like, but everybody worked their butts off to get there, and everybody's just trying their best. Yeah. So
absolutely. And it's, social media has allowed us to have a lens into people's lives, whether it be a particular business and an entrepreneur. But what we're seeing is what they portray, right? And then how we are receiving it. Like, we can receive that message. Like, I could receive a message completely different than what you would from that same person. And as much as I appreciate that, and there are definitely people that I follow because I feel like their messaging is spot on, they're really vulnerable, they're sharing things. It's not always just the good news. And I think people are starting to get a little bit better about that. Like you were saying, we finally have accepted the fact that we don't have to be perfect, and we can show the real us. But on the same sense, if we're just looking in somebody else's life, we don't have the opportunity to look back into our own and then be able to share that experience. And just like, us sitting down here today, like, it's we're learning so much about what we do, and we get to talk every now and again, right? But if we're just not sharing, like, why are we holding it in this vault and trying to solve all of those problems ourselves? And I am very, very thankful for the people that share phenomenal content and things that inspire me. But I also recognize too that they're on that same journey that we're on. They really are, because for every positive thing that we see of theirs, there's things happening behind the scenes that they are working their tail off to combat. And, your most, I'm in the barrel racing industry right now, but your most confident barrel racer out there that, say, on social media, I can guarantee you that person is not confident 100% of their time, or maybe in one particular area of their life. And that's okay. Like, that is really, really okay. I just think that we have to, as people and as humans, we need to constantly be in this growth mindset, and that's what it's about.
Yes, I love that. So you talked a little bit, you're in the barrel racing now. That's not where you started, though.
Correct.
You started, your family was it the racehorses first or the horse showing?
So I showed horses first, and was really, really involved as a very young youth into the hunter jumper, and was on a path to, like, my 100% goal was to make the Olympic team. And I was on that path. Like, I had the people in my corner. I had the trainers I needed, all of that. And then my family changed gears and got into the racehorse business.
Oh, wow.
And it went from, being a young girl riding jumping horses and having my sights on the Olympics to I'm galloping racehorses by the time I'm 10 or 12 years old.
Oh my goodness. That's a big change.
It was huge. The horses were about the same size, and it was scary. But at 10, you just don't even, that does not even enter your mind that you're in danger.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we got really full time into that. And by the time that I was in my late teens, early 20s, my family was really, really heavy into it. My parents had 50 mares and 4 stallions. We were racing all over. And that's really what got me into the rodeo and barrel racing industry. And even that has changed so much for me, because I had a supply of horses and I was making barrel horses out of our race horses. And then about 10 years ago, I started riding horses for a gentleman that has cow horses. And that just opened up opened everything up for me. It was just a whole different world. And so I just have a love of the industry, regardless of the discipline. There's just so much we can do to enjoy these horses, and they teach us so much. Like that, when you think about where you're at in life, and I will say that I believe that all people that are horse crazy, especially us girls, you look at the lessons that those horses have taught you throughout your life, and you realize that's where my confidence has come from. That's where my resilience has come from. Those horses have made me the person that I am. So I hope I'm in the barrel horse industry for a very long time to come. I have big plans, but just like we all do, but on the same sense, if it takes me a different path than in the horse industry, I'm completely happy with that too.
Yeah. That's so neat that you got to really grow up in it and progress and change disciplines, because from hunter jumpers to barrel racers is a lot of difference there.
It is a lot of difference. Yeah. But when you get into the industry too, you realize that there are other people that have had that same experience too. And so I'm glad that I had that experience for a lot of reasons. Like, if I had just got into, say, barrel racing at a young age, now hopefully I would have had that same caliber of mentorship and trainers, but it's a completely different, I feel like a different level of discipline when it comes to showing horses and training. Like, I had a trainer that I went to lessons 3 times a week, never failed. Like, and it was very prescribed. Like, you are going through a program. Whereas I feel like in some of our other industries, like, we're training, we might, like in the cow horse industry, like there's usually, trainers for the non-pros and, but in the barrel horse industry, I feel like we're a little bit we struggle a little bit because there's lots of phenomenal trainers, but there are a lot of good clinicians that might not get the recognition sometimes because maybe they're not at the top of the world standings, or they haven't been in the winner's circle for so long. And so, but we don't have that discipline to have that trainer in our backyard, time in and time out. Like I'm not going to a trainer 3 times a week. And so it's a lot of fun to see the differences between that. And I think with our industry and with technology too, which is phenomenal. I mean, there's so much information out there that we can now access it and be able to really develop our programs on our own. It may take us a little bit longer than most, but it's just kind of like the entrepreneurship journey. Like just start. It's not going to be perfect. Yeah. We might ruin a lot of horses along the way. Yes. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And again, I hope, I haven't won anything that is like major noteworthy by any stretch in the barrel racing industry. But what I do pride myself on is like, I have really, really nice horses. But what I will say about that is it comes with a lot of help. And it's the fact that I've invested into that horse for somebody else to help me along the way too. And I think that that's important, that we recognize that we don't always have all the tools in our toolbox. Like it's never a bad thing to get help.
Yeah. I think with the horses too, every horse is different. And being able to go ride with other people that, again, have a different perspective from you, or, hey, I rode a horse that was very similar. This is what I did that worked for me. And just building your own toolbox along the way is always, to me, has always been one of my favorite parts of, bringing horses up, is everything you're going to learn that will then help the next horse that comes into your string.
Yeah, it's so true. And like you said, building whatever it is that is your own program. That is something that I think a lot of people have invested in and continue to invest in, is finding those people. And what I love is we can start looking outside of our disciplines and really leveraging what is known in other disciplines as well. Not to say that you're going to implement, anything from the hunter jumper world specifically, but I will say this, like I was having this conversation with a friend of mine that's a barrel racer in Idaho as well. And I would get into these mental blocks about, came back to that perfection deal. And everything was perfect at a slow pace, just not at a run. And one day I was telling her, and she rode hunter jumpers, but I'm like, I finally figured it out. Like when you are in a jump off, so it's a timed event, at that point, because you basically have tied with somebody else. And so they give you a shorter course and it's timed. And so you're figuring out your lines and how to be there faster and shorter and not, knock a fence and all the things. I'm like, barrel racing is just a jump off. Like my whole mentality changed at that one moment that I figured out. And it had nothing to do with training the horse by any stretch, but it was just the fact of the actual result was the same. Like this is what the feeling was. And so I don't know, for me, it was like, you can learn something from anything.
Yeah. Well, and even just respecting other disciplines.
Yes.
We grew up like trail riding and like not performance horses whatsoever. And that was one thing for me coming up, is I was like, holy cow, every discipline is so different. And I have like full respect. I could not ride anything English. I did some English riding in college. I stayed on. I never fell off. I did fall off. But now, Brian and I talk about that, from the rope horse to the cow horse to the English to the barrels. I mean, the horsemanship is incredible in all the disciplines.
Yeah. And horsemanship is horsemanship. And that is something I think we all learn along the way. Some of us probably sooner than later. I mean, I wish I knew even 10 years ago what I feel like I know today. But, you had alluded to like all the different disciplines and then how you go get your knowledge and building your toolbox. And and I had a friend tell me this, and I didn't really understand the concept at first because I'm like, oh, I just don't know. But he was talking about like following a recipe. And if you take, 10 different people's recipe for an apple pie, and you only take one ingredient from each and make an apple pie, it's not going to be as good, And so I really kind of like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm going to take the best of this person and the best of this person. So I did that. I was on a mission, like I think we all are. And we do that about our equipment. And I mean, you think about, we just came off of the NFR, and you start seeing everybody's questions of like, what equipment is this person riding? What's their training regimen? We want to know all the individual things that they do, but it's not an individual thing that they do. Mm-hmm. We got to figure out what is it that we do that works for us and our horses. And I am a firm believer now that I have discovered the system that works for me. And it was, basically, I'm going to say borrowed from who I usually ride with. And I just had to take that whole thing and package it up and be like, this is what I'm doing. We were talking about this earlier of like the criticism of people. And I remember being criticized by somebody at a clinic, and it was, somebody that I competed with, and like, her problem is she goes and learns from all these people and she just can't implement these things. And I thought to myself, what right does that person have to say that? Mm-hmm. And then like, what's wrong with that? Like, I'm learning. And then what I realized is when I found the system that worked for me, I just put that in place. That might not be the system that works for you. It might not be the system that works for the lady down the road. But when you find what works for you, you keep with it, and then you keep improving on that system. But it's a process to figure out what it is that works for you. And like you said, you're going to have a horse come into your program that system may not work for that horse. So you're going to have to go back in the vault and figure out what you knew before.
Yes.
Or get some other help ahead of the game. And so, yeah.
I think that exact same theory applies to business and life in general, kind of looping even back to social media. Mm-hmm. When I've been asked all like, hey, how do you do this? I don't always have a good answer, because I've always just been like, I'm so stubborn. If I want something, I'm going to run and figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a solid answer for you of how. Yes. But I think on social media, even you see, maybe we highlight things or give tips, but you can't just take this one thing and rely on it to fix everything.
Right. Yeah. And you're so right with like entrepreneurship too, because no matter what it is that you're starting in your business, so, whether it be, your website platform for your horse sale or your podcast, there's steps that have to be done, mm-hmm. right? And you can ask 10 different people and they're all going to do it a completely different way. And very admirable, and why you're successful is because you're like, I'm going to figure it out as I go. I'm not going to wait for it to be perfect. But social media is that. Like, I will say that I'm guilty of that too. But again, what I had to figure out with that is, and I'm still figuring it out, is, as women especially, but sometimes we have a hard time self-promoting. And, I feel like I'm a really humble person, and I don't want to self-promote. But then coming to the realization of nobody will know about what you offer if you don't tell them. Mm-hmm. And like, I had to have my business coach tell me that all the time. And then to realize that, okay, the system that I see that everybody's doing, and we see it a lot, of course, especially in the coaching space, maybe that's not the system that works for me. And when I discovered, this whole community building, I'm like, this is it. This is what I need. This is what other cowgirls need. And mm-hmm. so to your point of like, you're going to go and you're going to run fast and you're going to get it to a roadblock, but you know exactly what it is that you want it to feel like, what you want it to look like, and you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm. I think that really pushes you forward too, when you can see your vision and you're like, I don't exactly know how, but this is what, I love what you said. You know what you want it to feel like and look like, and that could be enough inspiration to just keep chasing it.
For sure. Yeah. And you do know that, and you know that, and have accepted. I think that's a big thing too, is accepting once I get down the road a certain, distance, it may not feel and look like what I thought that it was going to, but along the way, I've met 100 new people to serve, and those people need something different than what I was actually trying to deliver to them. And being able to accept that and go, how do I solve their problem? How do I give them what they need and what they want? As long as you have the ability to. But I think that's what it's about being an entrepreneur too, is really what you're trying to do is help people solve their problem. I mean, end of story. If I think about your horse sale business, you want to market a certain particular horse to a certain particular person. And if you get 5 years down the road and now the need of that particular demographic has changed, I bet you're going to go find different horses to be able to sell to that demographic, because if we don't adapt, the business just goes away. And I think that's what people don't realize sometimes too, is you can spend years and years building something and build a brand. And if you don't adapt to that next thing and you have a vision, you're going to be left behind. And that's scary. I think that's probably what gets us to run a lot of the time, is like, we can't. And I learned this actually from my big yogurt company job, was you launch things before anybody else has that idea. Now, if somebody else does have the idea and you feel like you can do it better or you can do it differently, don't let that discourage you from still launching it too, because back to somebody's going to receive that message a little bit differently, or you're going to be able to appeal to a different demographic.
That is very true. I feel like if you get stuck in a rut, especially in business, or even just in life, you see it in horse training and business. And if you get stuck in a rut, that might have worked for a while, but everything is constantly changing.
Right. Yeah.
And if we can't keep up, then you're eventually just going to get left behind.
Yeah. And a really good analogy looking at that is, look at our different disciplines and look at even the breeding programs of each one of those disciplines. And, we've gotten so specialized in each one of them that you do feel like if I don't have X, Y, and Z, I am going to get left behind. But you adapt, or you find out that that's not where you want to be, and you're okay being where you're at. Like we were talking before, like the horse industry is incredible. And, one of the things that, again, it's really core to who I am and my beliefs, is when I started on this journey, and kind of like a little sidebar, because I've had a million ideas of what could be done. So if somebody wants to steal this idea, I haven't done it yet. But, I looked back on my childhood, and I think we all do this, is we look back and we think, when life was good, when we didn't have anything to worry about, like what was important to us. And for me, of course, it was the horses, because that's all that I knew. But when life got difficult later in life, like what was my saving grace? And the saving grace for me was my horses. And so at one point, like I really had this idea of like, that's what gives me the confidence. That's what gives people the confidence, because those horses are always mirroring back to you. And if you will spend the time to be quiet with them, if you will spend the time to learn with them, you're going to receive more than you give to that horse, for sure. And so my thought was like, I just want brand new horse owners to be able to have that experience, because you see all too often, I bet in your line of business, you see a lot of people that buy a horse for a first time and they have no idea what to do. They don't know how to feed it. They don't know how to take care of it. They don't know how dangerous it can be, all the things. And so, anyway, I went down that road of like, oh, maybe that's my business idea. Like I can help people with that. And not to say that I won't, because I do help people with that, but it's not like where I wound up. And a big reason for that was I just had to sit with it and get to the core of like, who is it that I want to help? And often we kind of resist that a little bit. And I resisted it a lot because I wanted to help everybody. Mm-hmm. And so just remember, like, helping a small group of people that you've identified is way more important work than trying to help everybody and not having a real big impact.
Yeah, that is so true. I fall into that trap of wanting to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we talked about before, you can't stretch yourself that thin, because then you're not going to have the energy, the time, the tools, the resources to really hone in on your one calling, one purpose, your why.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And you'll start figuring out how you live that and what other things that you can do that are in that space too, and doing it good, like continuing, like you said, continuing to perfect what you're doing is key. Like, you're always trying to stay one step ahead. You're trying to, and I do think, like, we innovate so we can offer something that is needed to whoever it is that we're trying to serve. But I think we would be lying to ourselves if we didn't say we innovate because it feeds our soul too. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't want to get stagnant. Like, we are the type of people that we want to grow. And I am 100%, and this is probably not an opinion that most people would have, but I do believe that everybody has a growth mindset, and we just are a little bit more advanced. Some people are than others. And I think it's because they haven't allowed themselves to think of what's possible. Mm-hmm. And for me, I would say that I was in that. Like, I always had this growth mindset of, I was chasing a corporate ladder. I knew I could figure out the technical things. I knew I was a good people person. I could get to where I wanted to go, but I wasn't like deep within myself. Mm-hmm. And it took finding the right mentor to be able to do that.
Yes.
And one that's challenging me to this day, like every single day, of like making you think about the hard stuff in life of like, what do you want your legacy to be? Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy to get stuck, and it is very important, again, have community and people that are pushing you towards that, because when you're chasing that, even when life gets so busy, so crazy, so hectic, that is usually the one thing that will keep you going. Mm-hmm. That's like, I'm going to keep going tomorrow. I'm going to keep trying tomorrow. When things get hard, I'm going to keep going. This is why. When you know your why, it's so empowering.
It is really empowering. And when you find that community, and that, like, I am so super passionate about building that for Cowgirls, because I feel like we don't often have that community outside of our local people that we see all the time. Mm-hmm. But the reason that I'm passionate about it too is because, and again, I don't want to say that it was luck, or because there was some action on my end of like finding this community. I just didn't know, and this is my business accountability community, but I didn't know what I was signing up for. Like, I thought I was signing up for some business coaching and somebody that was going to help me like figure out the whole social media, internet stuff and marketing and all the things. Uh-huh. What I didn't know was I was gaining this community of people all over the world that, like, if they don't hear from you or they don't see something from you, they're calling to check up on you. Mm-hmm. They're asking you like what they can do to help you. They're giving you ideas. And I think in the entrepreneur space, we've seen this a lot. I didn't know it existed until I kind of went down this road, but you see these groups, these mastermind groups, and I can't even express how valuable that is. And I don't think that it needs to be just for business people, like masterminding on how do you build your confidence, masterminding on how do you be the best mom you can be, mastermind, whatever your group is. Matter of fact, there's a lady that is in my group, and she lives here in Arizona, and she actually developed systems to help moms hire people to outsource their work in their home so they can spend more time with their kids. And I'm like, oh, who would have known something like that? And so whatever it is that you're passionate about, find that community that's going to support you.
Yes. I love that. Great advice. Well, we touched base on what people can expect, where they can find you. We'll put your links in the podcast too.
Perfect.
Put your links in there. And I really appreciate you coming and
Thank you.
making the time to come visit me on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes, it worked out perfectly. Thank goodness my horseshoe order canceled.
I get so bad, like we were talking. I'm trying really hard to like stockpile interviews. It never happens. I get one done a week and we usually launch it that week. I didn't have one this week, but I'm just very like, something will work out. And then when you're like, can you Monday or Tuesday? I'm like, oh yeah. And then when you're like, I canceled, I'm like, yes. Have an episode this week.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's getting it done.
That is, I'm very big on like, what's meant to be usually falls into place too.
It really does.
Yeah.
Even the bad stuff.
True. Sometimes the bad stuff puts you right in line where you need to be though. Well, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. And is there anything you wanted to add?
Thank you. No,
do you have any notes or anything?
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here in Wickenburg and
Heck yeah.
looking forward to meeting people.
Yeah. Thanks for riding along with me on Horses, Hope, and Hustle. If you found even a little bit of inspiration or grit here today, share it with a friend, leave a review, or tag us on socials. And keep showing up for what truly matters. Until next time, stay true, stay tough, and keep hustling.